name is Christopher Wood. This is my Moni. I was born in Florida. I'm a Floridian. Born in Fort Walton Beach. Panhandle. Yeah, and I moved to Ohio. My dad was in the Air Force. Moved to Ohio, came back. Cocoa Beach was stationed, so I grew up beachside, A1A. My backyard was the beach, and I surfed. My first surfboard was a Quiet Flight surfboard, and it broke on a wave, but I got another one. And I used to shoot crabs on the beach with my BB gun. I remember I used to think about eternity a lot when I was really young. I'd stare out into the horizon. We didn't really have like neighbors, so it was just like community of our family, and me and my brothers and sisters would make up these like imaginary like worlds, like we were like these lost people, and we had to go on some kind of adventure or something. We'd always find ourselves somewhere on the beach. But that's how I grew up as a kid. It's interesting. Beginning of my life, I was guarded from like a lot of stuff. Like I never really saw like bad things, you know, for what they were. Like when I was young, I just like the world was just this like, you know, unknown atmosphere where everything was sort of taken care of, and I was just there. And, you know, like air balloons. I remember like when I was a kid in Ohio, we would fly over our house all the time. And about the time, you know, I got into like 5th grade, it's when like the enemy started to attack like on a way that he's never really attacked me before, like just like pushing, you know, darkness in my life. And I was like really into music. I've always really been into music. My mom, was really into music. You know, she was like the alternative, like hippie Christian person that never went to church or fellowship with anybody, but like, you know, sort of like, you know, gung-ho, like feminist, like she was a really domineering woman, and she would dance around the house, and I like my mom. But like, so she told me about Jesus growing up, but like all I saw was that like she liked to party with my dad, and they would have like people from the Air Force over all the time, and they'd be, you know, drinking until they passed out, jumping over bonfires and shooting like potatoes out of rocket launchers in the ocean. Like that was normal for me, like every weekend when I was a kid. And like, but my mom was always like sowing seeds into me anyways. Like I always believed that God was there, God was real. My mom would tell me to like pray to Jesus and he loves you. And that stuff went inside of me. And by the time we moved down to South Florida, this stuff sort of just like slowly evaporated, you know, from my mind and my life. And all I was into was like, you know, like music, rock music. I wanted to go to concerts, and I wanted to like wail my body around into people and like like yield my brain over to like bombastic sounds and stuff. So so that's what I did. I spent my time in my room like yielding my mind to bombastic sounds and people screaming and thrashing and and that's what I did with my friends. Like we would thrash, but I never got into drugs. Like they were all into drugs and stuff. I loved horror movies. I loved like the intensity of like freaky things happening to people and stuff. I was so like gravitated toward like demented things. I don't know why, but it just started happening to me. And with that like came this identity like over time of just like chaos and nonsensical and dark. And like, you know, you have no idea what's around the corner because like you just don't know and nobody does and you're about to die or something like that. That's like, you know, I was just like a hyper kid though. I wasn't depressed or anything at that point. By the time I got into middle school though, things got like more dark, you know, and I was started getting really depressed all the time. When I was a kid, like diagnosed me with like ADD, and she said that I was like bipolar, and she said I was had like Asperger's syndrome and all this stuff. And she put me on pills, and so like since 5th grade, I was taking Adderall every day, and it really like changed my personality. One day I like wouldn't take it, and I'd be like, "Woo!" The next day I'd be like, you know, I'd like talk to people, you know, it's like people would be like, "Yo, what's up?" And I'd be like, hey, you know, I couldn't eat like my lunch, you know, it killed my appetite, and so that I hated that stuff. By the time high school came, like, they would like try to make me take it, and I would spit it out in the bushes. And so I was like that kid that was like, it's like, I don't want to take my pills, I just want to be myself. My parents never really like had like a harness around me. They're kind of like, Chris, whatever you want to do, like just do whatever you want to do, and like they wouldn't really direct me in like the morality or like godliness or anything. Like I had like no concept of right and wrong besides like the discipline of my mom. My mom was like the force in my house. My dad was sort of like, you know, over here, and my mom was like, this is the law, bam, you know. So my mom was a pretty intimidating person to me at the time. Yeah, so all of my friends were like the people that like had like all the house problems and you know, they wanted to rebel against everything for some reason, and so I would just like be there, find out to be there for them. And there was something like all along the way, like I knew like the things that my mom instilled to me, like Jesus, like still like would come up like when these like echoes, like this reality of like God like loves people, and so like there'd be this thing where I'd be in the midst of like all this like nonsensical like darkness and, you know, people thinking in the most oppressive ways and just being really ridiculous. And I would just like, I'd be like, whoa, these people need love. These people need love. And I would just try to like be that voice of love in people's lives, but I had no idea that I was steeped in like the pits of like, you know, dark realms and stuff like that. So I spent all my time at shows, and that's all I was interested in. And then I got into drugs, and so I started smoking weed a lot in high school, and it became sort of like my idol. I was like, oh my gosh, like some of you might be able to relate to like this thing where you have these drugs and you feel like you have this power to like manipulate like reality or something, and that's all I was into. I was just like, life is so freaking weird, I'm just gonna manipulate my reality and sort of try to step through things like that, see if I get anywhere, see if like I disappear, like, you know, the stuff that I saw. Like I found myself, that was just what I was doing anyways though, struggling with a lot of depression. I remember I would like, you're like really weird, like I would like contemplate like suicide all the time. I'd like pick up knives and I'd just walk around with them like really close to like my stomach and be like, you know, just be like, what would it be like if I just like, you know what I mean? Like, what would that be like? And they would like leave and something else would happen, and then I would get like really depressed and I would like lay down and stuff. And really weird. But God started talking to me those times. And he started making himself like real. He started like exalting himself in this way, this like silence. Like, I am God. And I'm just like, what the heck? I hang out with my friends and be doing stuff, and I'll be like, what they're doing is wrong, you know? And then I started getting this thing, I started seeing like darkness for what darkness was, and I started seeing like light for what light was, and there was this divide of like in my soul of like, this is darkness and this is light. And I didn't know what was going on. I started talking, I was still like smoking and stuff, I started talking to my friends about God. I'm like, whoa, look at that duck, God made that duck. You know, and they're all like, what are you talking about? You know, and then, okay, 1 more minute. Yeah. But really like God started awakening me to his glory through creation. I started to become obsessed with creation. And I realized, I just had this revelation that like all the creation, everything around me was like bringing praise to God. And it was lifting him up, and I was like, oh man, I'm not lifting this God up at all. And I wanted to. I was like given this desire to like want to like know God, and I knew he was Jesus. And so with people and giving my life over to anybody who knew the Bible, anybody that knew anything about Jesus. And I threw everything out. I took all my stuff and I threw it in the trash, threw all my CDs out, threw all my records out, threw my record player out, and everything was like uphill from there. And so God transferred me in the kingdom when I didn't know that he did. And then he awakened me to that reality. And he separated me from all of my friends. And then he joined me with his people that like I would never hang out with were like so attractive to me, like, you're so freaking cool, like you know something about Jesus. And all my friends were like, what the heck happened to Chris? Like Jesus, like there's always talking about Jesus now. Jesus, 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 Jesus. And so they all stopped hanging out with me, but I eventually found some new friends. And it's been 4 years now. God's taken me on a journey. I don't know if I have any time to talk about that now, but if you want to ask me about the journey since my transfer and awakening, you can ask me about it. Grant's going to talk to you now about the good news and the truth of God. So, yeah.